everyone, we are here for another one of our Conversations with Experts series, and I have with me Dr. Dave Wang, of WANDL. And obviously, WANDL has been kind of one of the pioneers in the capacity planning and IP planning, and of course, network planning industry. And starting when, Dave? 1985 now, so
1986.
86, so almost 16, 17 years.
No, 25.
25 years. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and Dave, of course, has been one of the founders of the company. So, Dave, if you could just take a couple minutes to tell us a little bit about what WANDL has done over the years and what is it that you're looking at in the recent past, that'd be great.
Yes, WANDL started as the network design tool vendor the way back in 1986. At that time, the dominant networking technology is TDM.
Sure.
So the major company at that time is not Cisco, Juniper, they are NET, Timeplex, and Newbridge kind of
the
company.
old guard.
Yeah, but ironically, if you look at the way they're doing it, they split because AT&T announced T1 leasable right around 1980. So right after that, many TDM companies showed up.
Sure.
They will split the T1 into many little bits for people to share. But at that time, it's called TDM. Roughly speaking, they take a second worth of T1, which is 192 the 192
bits,
8 kilobit.
Samples.
The 8 kilobit units, and that's about 1.5 megabits. So they multiplex that 8 kilobits into all kinds of little circuits, like 16 kilobit, 56 kilobit, 64 kilobit, 256 kilobit, and they can do this dynamically. So that actually is how WANDL gets started.
And then, of course, through the 90s, you evolved into ATM networks.
Yeah, early 90s were ATM, frame relay, and then around 1996, three things happens. One is, for example, Juniper started, so
sure.
They went IPO. The other thing is Cisco acquired Stratacom.
Yes.
That's another thing. Another thing relating to WANDL is Cisco acquired Netsys.
I see.
And Netsys has an interesting story because by year 2000, Cisco end of life Netsys. So in a way, WANDL inherited Netsys from Cisco.
I see.
So we become more and more knowledgeable
in that.
Into the IP space.
And then going into the 2000s, I think you have been, again, expanding into IP networks, Ethernet networks, and
also the IP, MPLS traffic engineering is a major focus. But then we expanded into VPN. We expanded into the optical portion because and then we also expanded into Ethernet.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dave, today what I'd like to talk about is something that doesn't often get realized, and that is we all kind of understand the number of panels we had that at Nanog of what a capacity planning tool can do internally for an operator's network. But I think one of the things that we were talking about is the peering is becoming important. And so, especially with content providers such as Google and Yahoo and others coming into the game. So, whatever insights you were giving me earlier, if you could talk a little bit about how the planning tool can actually help an operator in the peering game as well, at least in terms of estimating what kind of peering possibilities they have with respect to traffic.
Yeah, one thing we have done for one of our major customers is called peering analysis. And their major question is, they're a content service provider. They say they actually know because they have extensive NetFlow data collection into a big database. They actually know the amount of traffic going into all their customer ASs. Okay. So as a content provider, they know how much they go to AT&T, how much they go to Bell Canada, or how much they go to all the ASs in the whole world. Sure. And if they are not big enough to have their own the peering capacity, they have to buy transit from big guys like Level 3 or Quest. And in order to make those decisions, they often find out that sometimes direct peer is cheaper than transit. So they have to make that decision. So this peering analysis allows them to do that. This is a big prerequisite. The big prerequisite is that you have to have a full traffic, the entire traffic matrix from all your data centers to the traffic source behind your backbone routers, from all of your the data center into all the ASs. You have to have that kind of AS aggregation in terms of net flow database, and then pick a peak hour or peak day or whatever you are interested in.
Sure.
You assess how much traffic really go into, for example, Bell Canada,
sure.
AS 577. So today you maybe transit through level 3, but if you aggregate all the traffic to Bell Canada, if it's 10 gig, then say, oh, I should peer with him directly.
Yeah.
It's only 200 megs, then yes and no, it depends on how much you so there's a logic, the economic logic behind it as to up to a certain point, it's worth peering.
So that's important. So what I'm understanding is that the planning tool can at least be used, given you have the right data collection process, it can be used to understand what volumes of traffic you're currently exchanging with all the other providers that you have, and as you pointed out, maybe making a decision at some point, either you can aggregate multiple operators through a given network so that you can get economies there, or maybe, as you said, at some point you realize, hey, the volume of traffic is big enough that I can just directly peer, and that's more cost effective for me.
That's
so
correct.
in that way, the planning tools can help impact sort of strategy and economic decision making at the content providers.
Exactly.
So that's very valuable, because traditionally when we talk about it in the general circles, we don't tend to think of planning tools as something that the content providers can use, have traditionally used. But what I wanted to highlight is the value of the planning tool even for the content operators, maybe it's a Yahoo or a Google or a Facebook,
right,
who are now building their own data centers and are effectively becoming operators in their own right.
Correct.
The other key point that we were talking about is that when you make changes internal to your network, maybe you change a metric of routing and so on, that can impact, you were telling me about how that impacts the way traffic gets routed internally and also the exit points of traffic. So could you talk about that and the value of that for either the content operator or the other, even a regular operator, to understand what that means?
Basically, from a content service provider point of view, the network you have, everything is BGP next hop. So wherever your traffic really goes, it's depending on your internal understanding of BGP next hop.
Mm-hmm.
And those information can be influenced by failures or by change of metric or change the BGP attributes.
Sure.
Which is a lot of the tiebreaker decision steps.
Sure.
So and then also on top of that, there are policies configured in your Cisco Juniper config router. So you may change your policy, and then all of a sudden the route goes left instead of right. So all of this are actually the capability of WANDL tool. We can simulate at that level of detail the exact way you configure your policies in
Absolutely. So the tools today, WANDL being one example, they're actually able to do that. You are able to take in the BGP policy configs and help the operator do a what-if analysis of policy changes, and that's actually very valuable, because the moment I can do a what-if analysis like that, and once I'm sensitized to the fact that changing traffic volumes actually impacts my economic relationships with my providers, and there is a great motivation within the planning group of a content provider then to look at, okay, what changes should I be doing to maybe optimize better my peering relationships and the volume of traffic that's going in.
A major application is actually on the fault management side. For example, if this content service provider has a big pipe into AT&T in California, and if this pipe for whatever reason is broken,
yep,
then the traffic actually will go through AT&T Atlanta or go through level 3 in Denver. And then that 10 gig, you're still realizing 3 gig from Atlanta through level 3 and 7 gig from 3 gig from Denver and 7 gig from Atlanta. But if Atlanta is already doing about 5 gig worth of traffic, then this extra 7 gig will run into congestion.
Absolutely.
So in this way, you may lose 2 or 3 gigs. So this kind of analysis is possible.
Wonderful. Taking this one step further, I mean, one of the operators we were talking about was mentioning also the ability to do inter-AS routing, I mean, which is kind of similar. I understand that WANDL today has the capabilities to do that, or?
Yes, for inter-AS routing, the major difficulty is if you own both ASs, you have the configuration of all the routers.
Sure.
You in control, then simulation is possible. Otherwise, you only know your side and the policy configured on the other carriers. You have no visibility into that. Therefore, there's no way to figure out how the traffic will come this way or that way.
So there is no easy way to solve that problem if you're talking inter-provider AS traffic flow. I mean, unless
yeah, it's quite difficult.
That is a difficult problem.
You have to do a lot of guessing.
Can some extrapolation techniques be used based on this traffic volumes and historically where you've seen traffic come from and so on?
Well, because if you have a peering agreement or peering coordination, then they may send you some what you call special community strings to help you understand that this is their policy, that policy, but
sure,
you only have some limited visibility.
Okay, so is that an area that you think there's innovation possible, or in terms of, as you said, interpreting the community properties and community
I think that's difficult.
TLBs that are coming?
That portion is difficult.
Okay. And then one of the things we were talking about earlier also was there's obviously been an influx of things like IPTV and mobile backhaul. And I was wondering what your sort of thought process is around what that means for the capacity planning tools. How are you seeing things evolving within WANDL or in the sort of community in general with this influx of traffic?
Yeah, for the TV side, the game is multicast, but if it's unicast, then it's just like normal IP. So the traffic will be extremely wasteful. I mean, a lot of copies of the same thing.
Indeed.
But if there's a way to do multicast, then you can save a lot. And currently, IP, the routers are already quite capable of doing multicast for you.
Sure.
But then the main thing is redundancy. So one of the technology we have been, well, on the layer 3 side, we can actually reverse engineer whatever is being done on the router side. Sure. In finding out the multicast tree. And on the layer 2 side, we also done point-to multi-point traffic engineering. And that's a MPLS TE feature which allow you to configure the route any way you want. Sure. As opposed to layer 3, it's always following IGP routes.
IGP routing.
There's no way you can tweak it. So in that sense, you gain a lot of control. But on the layer 2 side, the best practice is a paper announced by Cox Communication a couple of years ago in MPLS conference in Washington, D.C., talking about the typical practice to configure 2 diverse multicast spanning the trees.
Multicast trees, yeah.
And that configuration is actually computationally difficult.
So that's something that a planning tool could definitely help with.
We actually can figure out how to do that. For small network, you can do it by hand. For large network, one case we have done like 400 Juniper routers. We can
400?
Yeah, 400.
Wow. Okay.
At that kind of network, most people just give up. They can't really configure that kind of diverse tree.
Yeah, that's a hard optimization problem, right?
Yes, we did it.
Okay. So there's 2 valuable things you pointed out. I mean, with the influx of IPTV and services that basically need multicast. One is you need redundant multicast tree computation, which is a hard problem for anything more than a toy network. So that's something that the tools can definitely help with.
Yeah, it's the difficult computation.
And and it can be done both at layer 2 or layer 3. So both of those capabilities are something that a planning tool.
We also do the automation, like processing the Cisco or Juniper configuration files,
which is
to figure out
where to do the reverse engineering that you were talking about. So that's all very valuable. So great. So that's that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm glad for the insights that you shared with us, Dave. And hopefully we'll get to do another one of these sessions sometime soon on another contemporary topic.
Okay.
But appreciate your insights and thank you so much for it.
Thank you.